Welcome to On With The Show, where we delve into the intriguing stories that have shaped the world of performing arts. I'm your host, Leo Sullivan. Join me as we discover how an overzealous 1920s New York court system tried to take down Mae West and created a global icon whose legacy and witty repartee live on over 100 years later. So, without further ado, let's dive into the spotlight and explore the stories behind the curtain. This is On With The Show. It was a chilly February night in 1927 when the New York Police Department entered Daly's 63rd Street Theatre to arrest the cast of Sex, a play written, produced by, and starring Mae West. Instead of crushing the glamorous Mae under stringent morality laws, they unwittingly made her a global sensation whose reputation lives on. Mae West was born Mary Jane West on August 17, 1893 in Brooklyn, New York, to parents Mathilde, a corset model, and John, a prize fighter and later private detective. Mae was treading the boards from the age of 5 under the stage name Baby Mae, and made her Broadway debut at 18 in 1911 and joined the vaudeville circuit amongst the likes of Al Jolson and Ed Wynn. West began writing her own risque plays under the pen name Jane Mast, putting herself in the starring role on Broadway with her debut play, Sex, which she also produced and directed. City newspapers refused to run ads, but as Mae knew, New Yorkers adore anything exclusive and immoral. The comedy drama premiered on April 26, 1926, with Mae playing Margie Lamont, a sex worker who wants a better life but is otherwise not terribly repentant. Sex also included burglary, drinks spiked with drugs, cops as clients, bribery, and an offstage suicide. Conservative critics panned the show, but the public loved it. The New York Times considered it to be a crude and inept play, cheaply produced and poorly acted, while Billboard condemned it as the cheapest, most vulgar low show to have dared to open in New York this year. When the show opened, Broadway had been in a commercial slump. In spite of this and negative press, Sex played to full audiences and was the only play on Broadway that season to stay open through the summer and into the following year, running for 375 performances after 325,000 people had watched it, including members of the police department and their wives, judges of the criminal courts, and 7 members of the district attorney's staff. City officials received complaints from religious groups such as the Society for the Suppression of Vice, and on February 9, 1927, Mae found herself surrounded by officers from the New York Police Department's Municipal Vice Squad, who rounded up and arrested the cast and put them into black vans. They were taken to Jefferson Market Courthouse, where the judge asked her if she was indeed Mae West. She replied, "Don't you read the newspapers?" The judge responded, "Miss West, are you trying to show contempt for the court?" "On the contrary, Your Honor," Mae sweetly responded. "I was doing my best to conceal it." The courthouse turned into a press circus, with hundreds of people gathering outside in the hopes of an autograph. When asked what she thought was going to happen, Mae said, "I expect this will be the making of me." James Timoney, Mae's business manager, was the first principal called for sentence. He was fashionably dressed, with a spring coat over his left arm and a blue flower in his lapel. Mae was modishly attired, while theatrical producer Clarence Morgenstern, who was the manager of the play, appeared to have made no special preparations in attire for the ordeal. On April 5, 1927, 22 defendants were found guilty by a jury for violating Section 1140A of the Penal Code, in that they gave a performance that was obscene, indecent, immoral, and impure, which tended to corrupt the morals of youth and others. Norman P. S. Slosh, counsel for the cast, entered a plea for a general suspension of sentence, asserting that District Attorney Yoab A. Banton had refused to condemn sex after witnessing one performance over the 11 months run. The refusal of the prosecutor to take action against the play until it had run for more than 300 days had given the producers and the cast a sense of security that the play was not in violation of the law. He concluded with a declaration that, were the court to impose jail terms on any of the defendants, there would be a backwash of public sentiment. Mr. Schloss then read to the court a plea for the suspension of sentence on all of the defendants, signed by 8 of the 12 jurors who had returned the guilty verdict. In their plea, they set forth the following reasons for requesting clemency. First, upon the play's opening, it was reviewed and carefully examined by the police department and was permitted to run for nearly a year, during which time the defendants doubtless thought they had been certified as not infringing the law. Second, shortly after opening, a play jury, sponsored by the district attorney, acquitted the play and placed its stamp of approval on it. Third, by the act of the police department and of the play jury, the defendants who have been convicted in this case were encouraged to continue in its production. Fourth, the actors and producers were, we are informed, bound by contract to continue their respective parts and to continue the production, and couldn't break their contracts after the play had received the approval of the police department and of the play jury. Fifth, the play, under these circumstances, had a continuous run of more than 370 performances in New York City between the date of its opening and the date of the arrest of the actors and producers. 6. The play was closed before the trial and had remained closed for nearly a month, and because of the conviction, if for no other reason, could never reopen. District Attorney Banton addressed the court after the pleas of the defense lawyers and stated, "As far as the actors are concerned, I do not urge anything but extreme clemency. But, as to the principals, West, Morgenstern, and Timoney, I would personally recommend jail sentences." From the testimony of Mr. Hood, one of the members of the play jury that passed upon sex months before, he did not see the same play that was prosecuted. There had been changes made. These principals were given sufficient notice at least 2 weeks before the police interfered with the show, but they continued to produce it. They could have closed it at any time, but they insisted upon offending the community. I had given notice 30 or 40 days before that I was no longer behind the play jury. This notice was given through the public press. The failure to close this play was an outrage on public decency, and those who are responsible for its production should be shown no mercy. Addressing the 22 defendants, Judge Donnellan said the jury's verdict was entirely proper, for the evidence clearly showed that the play was obscene, immoral, and indecent. By reason of the growing agitation over the so-called sex plays, this trial occupied the attention of the entire country, and particularly of the citizens of our great city. The jury was instructed by the court to render a verdict based upon their conception of the moral standards of today as they exist in this city. Their verdict ought to silence forever those who are continuously maligning the fair name of New York. Our people are not only devoted to business, but also like their pleasures, and particularly do they patronize our theatres. Judge Donnellan called attention to the action of the defendants in having their trial for a misdemeanor transferred from special sessions, where 3 justices would have rendered a decision, to a jury trial in this court, thinking that no jury selected from the citizens of our city would condemn it. It is pleasing to me, as a native New Yorker, as it must be to all decent citizens, that the defendants have had their answer. He went on. Such plays as Sex serve no good purpose, whereas it probably would have no effect upon the sophisticated and those experienced in worldly affairs. Yet, in my judgment, it had an effect upon the youth of our city. It is youth which the statute tries to protect from the obscenity and immorality which pervaded this show from beginning to end. We are not a puritanical people, but we are a moral community, and the verdict in this case will have a far-reaching result in the elevation of the moral standard of the stage. The people of New York have spoken through the orderly process of the law, and I feel that filth and obscenity will be eliminated from our stage. He referred to New York as the most moral city in the universe. Commenting on the defense lawyer's reference to the play jury verdict, Judge Donnellan said he understood the jury stood 8-4 for suppression of the play, but under the rules of the jury panel, a vote of 9-3 was necessary to condemn it. It strikes me, he said, that the vote of the play jury in itself was a condemnation of the show, which should have caused the producers to withdraw it. He said he felt the members of the cast were not in the same position of responsibility as the 3 principals, and referred to the evidence at the trial that Timoney had boasted that it was the wish of the producers to bring about a police raid to obtain publicity for Sex. The penalty imposed on Miss West, the judge explained, was due to the fact that she collaborated in writing Sex, and that, from the testimony, she participated in many of the objectionable scenes. She seemed to go to extremes in order to make the play as obscene and immoral as possible, and this was all done with the consent and assistance of Morgenstern. So far as the members of the cast are concerned, I feel that mercy should be extended to them. I feel that in the case of these men and women, the demoralized condition into which the stage has sunk had forced them to seek employment in this show as a means of livelihood, and that their occupation must have been most distasteful to them and only followed through necessity. The court offered to drop the charges if Mae would pay a fine and close the show. But Mae was too savvy an entrepreneur to go quietly. Faced with the decision of paying a fine which she could easily afford, or going to jail, Mae chose the jail sentence for the publicity it would garner, and was sentenced to 10 days imprisonment. Timoney and Morgenstern were also sentenced for the same amount of time. 19 other cast members, including Barry O'Neill, the leading man, were freed on suspended sentences. Fines of $500 each were also assessed against Mae and Timoney, and the court ordered that if they failed to pay the fine at the expiration of their prison terms, the actress and the lawyer were to serve an additional day in jail for each $10, or 60 days in all. Before being sent to jail, Mae said she felt District Attorney Banton was especially severe on her, particularly because she was a woman. While incarcerated on Welfare Island, she dined with the warden and his wife, and told reporters she had worn silk panties while serving time instead of the standard issue burlap ones worn by the other inmates. She served 8 days, with 2 days off for good behavior, and afterwards told reporters that her play was a work of art, and that the time spent in jail was worth every ounce of the publicity. The trial, the publicity, the quotable interviews, and the 10-day jail sentence was the making of Mae West. She thumbed her nose at the authorities by writing more plays, including The Drag, which explored the world of queer characters and drag balls in New York City. Media attention surrounding the incident enhanced her career, with reporters dubbing her a bad girl who would climb the ladder of success wrong by wrong. Cultural historian Mary Beth Hamilton, interviewed in the film Mae West, Dirty Blonde, said, "Mae West knows that when she steps onto the stage, she is stepping onto the stage not just as a character, but as Mae West, the celebrated pornographer who spent 8 days in jail for an obscene play. She was a very, very canny reader of her audiences and a very canny reader of her own publicity."